Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Uh, Thank you for coming back. Today is February the 17th, 2024. Uh, I was away for a little bit from my media, and apologies for that. And I was away for a break from this all negativities, negative news around the world. So I was in a nice cruise ship, you know, equipped with everything really. You got, you know, restaurants, basketball playing area, swimming area, jacuzzi, uh, PlayStation for kids and adults, casino if you are interested to play casino on the ship. It's really is a nice experience. I never been on a cruise. Very huge, very huge. I might share some videos in the future. So that's why I was away for maybe more than a week now. Stay away from this all negative news around the world. But I'm back to share this negative news again with you. Thank you for coming back. I will start with a little bit update. The war is still going on. No peace signed in Ethiopia. Oromo Liberation Army and the federal government of Ethiopia still engaged heavy military activities in Oromia. The government of Abiy Ahmed is using everything available to defeat OLA. That is their plan, but they are not successful according to different news outlets coming from Ethiopia. But they are trying to control. They are trying to, to defeat, to sabotage Oromo Liberation Army movement toward the capital. So the fighting is still tough, very heavy, and still going on. The other one is the war in Amara region between the federal government of Ethiopia and Fano militia still ongoing. And despite the government attempt to control that one too. So two heavy wars in Ethiopia, no settling down, no sign of peace. Fanos are trying to take revenge for the killing in Merawi, the extrajudicial killing in Merawi. So Fanos are claiming, revenge against the federal government forces. And also in the place called Mashante, they are also carrying out military activity over there. So in these two major regions of Ethiopia, the war is still going on. The African Union also having a meeting in Addis Ababa. That's the only one peaceful area secured. So they are having the 37th ordinary session in that hall, and I have a video Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed addressing the delegation. So, it's this unless these two wars come to an end in Ethiopia, there is no good news coming from Ethiopia. Nothing to report really, unless there is a mechanism to end these wars, like the Tigray war. The war are destructive. They are killing the country's economy, the country's limited resources. So they must come to an end. And Abiy Ahmed trying to use all the resources against this force instead of negotiating and instead of signing a peace deal to end this war. Thank you again for coming back. Let's listen to Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed address to the 37th ordinary session of African Union. And I have more videos and more news to share with you in a reading. And Let's listen.
Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I have now the honor and pleasure to invite His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, to deliver his speech. Thank you.
Excellency President Azali Assoumani, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union, Excellency Lula da Silva, President of Brazil, Excellency Moussa Faki Mohamed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, distinguished ministers, ambassadors, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ethiopia. It is an honor to be with you today. Since we last met, the world has witnessed profound transformations shaped by geopolitical competition, economic challenge, climate change, and technological advancements. While we celebrate the African Union permanent membership in the G20 and the opportunity it gives the continent to be heard on global issues, there are still important questions we need to address. What role do we, Africans, want to play in this evolving global power structure? And how do we become key players in the distribution of economic power? In an attempt to answer these questions, allow me to take a step back in history. Africa is where modern humans arose. Our ancient kingdoms and empires were home to many significant inventions and innovations, particularly in agricultural techniques, in the use of medicinal plants, and in the construction of impressive architectural structures, all being a testament to Africa's important contributions to the world civilizations in critical areas such as science, technology, and education. However, our continental path towards greater achievements and progress was disrupted by colonialism. The strategic approach of the colonial powers was centered around dismantling the core essence of our nations, undermining our knowledge, our spiritual and cultural heritage, replacing our ancient education systems with Western style education that was introduced as being superior. Even though Ethiopia dealt colonialism a heavy blow at the Battle of Adwa, attempts to undermine Ethiopia's unity by exploiting our diversity to perpetuate ongoing conflicts continued throughout the centuries. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, uncovering these deep historic facts and bringing them to light is necessary to move forward for us as Africans for greater self-determination and dignity. Our land is rich. We are blessed with favorable weather, arable land, water, forests, natural resources, and a large youth population who embody the great potential of our continent. We should not be seeking for aid. In order to grow and ensure sustainable development, education is key. In the last 5 years, Ethiopia has made significant progress towards universal access to education. We have built over 30,000 kindergartens and primary schools. We are heavily investing in secondary schools and TVETs to ensure quality and skills development as well as meet labor market needs. Today, new technologies and innovative learning models can help our continent leapfrog into the future. Technology has taken learning beyond the classroom. Artificial intelligence is delivering personalized learning tailored to children's needs by breaking down cultural and language barriers. Such advancements will allow our youth to unleash their entrepreneurial spirit, problem-solving skills, and determination to overcome challenges on Africa's development path. But we all know that one of the major factors affecting education systems are investments and financial constraints. Our financing needs are growing due to climate change and the cost of living crisis, among others. Debt is a burden. Inequalities in the international financial architecture makes access to finance inadequate and expensive. The world needs to internalize the fact that the population projection of Africa in 2015 is 2.5 billion people, making us the most populous continent in the world. Africa's rise should be important to the entire world. We need to grow. We need to build infrastructure, assure food security, strengthen our health and education systems, and create jobs. All of this requires long-term financing. While I renew my call to all major financial agencies to consider the realities of today's world, and particularly for middle and low-income countries, allow me to draw your attention on some of the opportunities our continent has for the Africa we all want. First comes Africa's thriving digital economy. Majority on the continent have phones, and mobile data is rapidly growing. We are starting to produce large data sets that the AI system require to allow us to learn, make prediction, inform our policies, and act. Having a robust Pan-African data governance strategy aligned with the principles of Agenda 2063 will boost the continent's competitiveness, ensure productive cross-border data flow, and protect individual rights. In addition, increasing infrastructure connectivity between our countries by building roads, airports, ports, rail networks, pipelines, and communication networks will link communities, increase trade, and enable economic integration. Furthermore, I would like to touch upon the need to secure peace and stability, which are, of course, the necessary foundation for economic and social development. Ethiopia firmly believes that regional and continental integration is essential to diversify our economies, ensure peaceful coexistence among its neighbors, and work together for our common goals. Africa needs strong regional and continental platforms where national development challenges from a geographical, logistics, and security perspective are taken into consideration. All of us here gathered today need to embrace the complexity of the world we live in and have critical debates to bring about creative but yet pragmatic solutions that will lead us to the transformation for Africa to prosper. I conclude by thanking our outgoing chairperson, President Azali Assoumani, for his leadership and for representing our organization on the global stage. Allow me to also warmly congratulate our new chairperson, wishing him success during his tenure. I wish you all a fruitful summit, a fruitful stay in your second home, and God bless Ethiopia, God bless Africa. I thank you.
Okay.
South Africa supported it.
Okay, we'll come back to this one. So that is the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, addressing the 37th ordinary session of African Union meeting. And no translation is needed. It's in English, so you can comment on it. What do you think about this speech? Did he address the core problem of Africa? He blamed colonialism. Okay, that may be one cause for creating, all problems in Africa. What about dictatorship in Africa, the coup in Africa, and the lack of democracy, lack of freedom? All this is he didn't mention. So it's not only colonialism. It's not only World Bank and the IMF problem. The corruption is the problem in Africa. It's not only debt. They're just spending money on military and attempting to stay in power for extended period of time by changing constitution, by through coup and different undemocratic means. So many problems. He mentioned Ethiopia is doing all to advance education, even opening new schools, and also saying Africa doesn't need food aid. Africa has every resources, and the climate is good. Yes, but the problem is undemocratic system. The challenge is those who hold in power, they don't want to take turn. Once they got the power, they want to stay by all means, by changing the election, by changing the constitutions, by arresting opposition parties, by killing opposition parties, creating war. So many challenges, not only colonization, not only IMF, not only the problem of World Bank, so many. And he was talking about creating peace and security. And also he was talking about protection of individual rights. Really, these words coming out from the Prime Minister, where we know since he came to power, so many people are still in jail, political figures, Oromo Liberation Front, officials, despite the court's dismissal, they are still in jail, still suffering through, so many challenges, lack of medication, lack of, clean food, sanitation challenges. They are already allowed to go home by the court, but the Prime Minister is holding them. So he's talking about protection of individual rights. I'm surprised to hear from him. So he talked a lot of nice things about, advancing technologies and, so many other things. But so I want to know, what do you think What do you think about this speech? Please comment under the comment section. And I will continue with the second video, which is about International Court of Justice rejected South Africa's second request for ceasefire, before Israeli waging war in Rafah, the only remaining place with millions of Palestinians took refuge. They came from all over area, told by Israelis to go there. Now, Israeli forces, Benjamin Netanyahu, is threatening to carry out military indiscriminate bombardment in that area, despite all opposition, including from President Biden. So let's listen to this one. The court rejected. I don't know.
Two-state solution for decades, along with the freedom of Palestinians from Israeli occupation. The war on Gaza led South Africa to the International Court of Justice. In December, it lodged a case at the court accusing Israel of genocide.
It's also a moral argument. You can see the mass deaths, the destruction of people, the destruction of property, destruction of all the means needed to sustain a life. We felt that we needed to take action. And of course, our own history played a role in that. I think the fact that we come from a colonial apartheid history, and now you've got settler colonialism having taken root more or less the same time, 1948, in Palestine.
In the court's view, last month, the court issued provisional measures against Israel, including that it prevent genocide. The court says it notes a potential new assault on Rafah would worsen a humanitarian nightmare, but it's declined issuing additional measures, saying Israel should comply with its existing order. But the South African government says the killing of more than 28,000 Palestinians can't be justified, and it's concerned about Israel's continuing attacks in southern Gaza, where nearly 1.4 million people fleeing the war are trapped. While South Africa says the court has reaffirmed its view, it says Israel is in breach of the court's orders and the International Convention on Genocide.
It says we order the IDF to ensure that they do not do anything that will contravene the measures in the Genocide Convention. That was a de facto ceasefire order. And we see that Israel has ignored that order and the orders that calls for unhindered access to humanitarian aid. They've tried to reinterpret it in a way that suits
because
them.
There is no accountability.
But most international lawyers have
there is no penalty for doing that.
It's an attempt, and it's an attempt to justify
ignoring
what they're doing.
South Africa says it will use bodies like the United Nations Security Council to ensure the court's orders are implemented. Famida Miller, Al Jazeera, Johannesburg.
I hope so.
Make sure to subscribe to...
I'm tired of all these advertisements. Okay, I will come back to that one. So Israel is above international law, above any law. They don't listen to anybody. They don't listen to United Nations. They don't listen to President Biden. They don't listen to anybody or International Criminal Court. They are doing whatever they want to do. They want to crush Palestinians, destroy the Palestinian cities, and conduct their expansion. They don't want two-state solution. Benjamin Netanyahu is saying clearly they don't want two-state solution. So that's a challenge, but we'll see. Security Council, as long as US is there, nothing can happen. So South Africa can try whatever they can try, but we still appreciate South Africa for doing all this despite all these challenges. The neighboring Arab countries, they are just watching. They are watching while their brothers and sisters are dying. Now the number is 28,000, and we are counting on. Okay, let's share with you a couple of news in reading. The first one, it says Merawi town killings and Ethiopian government response. The Ethiopian government has denied reports of recent extrajudicial killings by the state security forces in the town of Merawi, located in the Amara region. Leggasa Tulu, the Minister of State for Communication Services, confirmed that there was a clash between the Ethiopian National Defense Force (ENDF) and the non-state militia FANO in the town, but says that the defense forces didn't target any civilians. In an interview with Deutsche Welle, he stated that the military acted in self-defense. That's the response from Ethiopian government. According to Leggasa, the insurgents attacked the army camp from 4 directions in the attempt to loot equipment and supplies. This is in quotation. Again in quotation, the military forces exercised their rights of self-defense and responded with necessary action. End of closing of the quotation, he claimed. He further says that when the defense forces took defensive action and, in quotation, they subsequently entered civilian homes, end of quotation. He didn't deny members of the military conducted a search, but says it was, in quotation, according to the authority given by the law, end of quotation. And yet, again in quotation, they were fired upon again, end of quotation. However, a preliminary report released earlier this week by state-appointed Ethiopian Human Rights Commission EHRC confirmed that at least 45 civilians were recently killed in extrajudicial execution, in quotation, across parts of the Amara region's East Gojam zone. The report stated that civilians were targeted based on suspicion of, in quotation, supporting the armed FANO group. That's Ethiopian Human Rights Commission. According to Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, the exact number of casualties remain unconfirmed, pending further investigation. When asked about this allegation, the minister responded, in quotation, there is no verified information regarding such actions being taken. Again in quotation, not only would civilians never be targeted, even surrendering combatant will not be killed, as there are no systems in place allowing that. Leggasa added that if the reports were true, the government itself would have taken action. The corroborated reports of the extrajudicial killings have generated sharp criticism internationally. The US government has called for, in quotation, unfettered access by independent human rights monitors, as well as an impartial investigation to ensure the perpetrators are brought to justice. You don't get this in Ethiopia as long as Prosperity Party and as long as Abiy Ahmed is there. You cannot get independent investigation. They don't allow. They don't allow. But you can say it for publicity. Similarly, the European Union, EU, expressed serious concern about the alleged targeted killings of civilians in the town of Merawi. The EU has also called for an independent investigation into the matter. Who's gonna give you independent investigation? Who allow you? Do you think Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed allow you? Or do you think Prosperity Party will allow you to do independent investigation? How many independent investigation is done in Tigray? These are just talks for the sake of talking. No, you will not see any independent investigation for all atrocities happen in Ethiopia as long as Prosperity Party is there. They don't allow. The British Embassy in Addis Ababa expressed concern, stating, in quotation, reported killings of civilians in Merawi are disturbing and follow reports of other violations. Civilians should never be targeted. Likewise, the Canadian Embassy in Ethiopia called the killings of civilians deeply concerning, in quotation, adding that the protection of the civilian population is a fundamental element of humanitarian law. You guys say whatever you want to say, but nothing happening in practical terms. Nothing. Just nice words, expressions. Nothing to enforce your words. Lagasa stated that the State Emergency Implementation Inquiry Board in the Amara region is currently handling the matter. Yes, okay. He also dismissed that there would be no investigation by any, in quotation, other party. Though he added that the EU and the US, in quotation, have always voiced concerns about Ethiopia. In quotation again, we have our own institutions. If any party commits an offense or causes damage, legal and procedural action will be taken, he stated. Yeah, he has to defend his system. Yes, but nothing can come from your investigation, Mr. Lagasa. This one, Israel staged airstrikes across Gaza, makes arrests at hospital. Israel forces carried out arrests in Gaza's largest functioning hospital, health officials and the ministry said on Saturday, as airstrikes hit across the enclave and the rain battered Palestinians taking shelter in Rafah. Israel forces raided the Nasser hospital in Khan Yunis on Thursday as they pressed their war on Hamas, the Palestinian Islamist group that rules the enclave. In quotation, occupation forces detained a large number of medical staff members inside Nasser Medical Complex, which they, Israeli, turned into a military base. End of quotation, said Gaza Health Minister spokesperson Ashraf al-Qidra. The Israeli military said it was hunting for militants in Nasser and had so far arrested 100 suspects. 100 suspects on the premises, killed gunmen near the hospital and found weapons inside it. This is Israeli claim, not independently verified. So they are storming hospital, storming mosque, storming church. Nothing left. Hamas has denied allegation that its fighters use medical facilities for cover. At least 2 released Israeli hostages have said they were held in Nasser. The Israeli incursion into the hospital has raised alarm about patients, medical workers, and displaced Palestinians sheltering there. About 10,000 people were seeking shelter at the hospital earlier this week, but many left either in anticipation of the Israeli raid or because of Israeli orders to evacuate, the Gaza Health Ministry said. Further south in Rafah, where more than half of Gaza's 2.3 million population are sheltering, the winter cold added to already dire condition when wind blew away some tents of the displaced and rain flooded others. Israeli plans to storm Rafah have promoted international concern that such action would sharply worsen the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh blamed Israel for a lack of progress in achieving a ceasefire deal in Gaza, the group said in a statement on Saturday. Credit Reuters. They don't want ceasefire. They want to, continue their military operation all over Gaza, eliminate, destroy, then eliminate the chance of two-state solution. That's the target. I've never seen there have been clashes between Israeli and the Palestinian armed group, but I never seen something like this. Never. This is complete carpet bombardment of the Gaza and the Palestinians. Never seen in my experience. This is from Office of the Spokesperson, U.S. State Department, Secretary Blinken meeting with Israeli President Herzog. The blow is attributable to spokesperson Matthew Miller. Secretary of State Anthony J. Blinken met with Israeli President Isaac Herzog in Munich. The secretary reaffirmed Israel's right to ensure that terrorist attacks on October 7 can never be repeated. Secretary Blinken and President Herzog discussed ongoing efforts to secure the release of hostages and achieve a humanitarian pause that would help enable the increased flow of humanitarian assistance to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. Still humanitarian pause. It's not ceasefire. Never, I never seen such blind support for Israel. They never caught ceasefire because Israel is in an advantageous position. That's why they don't want to call ceasefire. But if it's in the opposite, they will immediately call for ceasefire within days. That is the reality. Secretary Blinken reiterated that the United States could not support a military ground operation in Rafah without a credible and implementable plan for ensuring the safety of the more than 1 million people sheltering there. So they don't allow the military operation because they're just asking Israeli, what is your plan? How are you going to deal with these civilians? Give us a plan, then we will allow you. That's what they're saying. They are not talking about ceasefire. They are not talking about ceasefire. They want Israel to go with the operation, but they want the plan. Secretary Blinken emphasized the need for all parties to take feasible measures to protect civilian lives. This is for publicity, prevent the conflict from expanding. The Secretary underscored the U.S. commitment to lasting peace in the region, including through the establishment of Palestinian state with security guarantee for Israel. Okay. One more from U.S. State Department on the Senegalese Constitutional Court decision. That's a problem in Africa. Africa, they don't want term limit for the president, so they just figure out to delay election, to play around, so that they can stay in power. That is a problem in Africa, in most countries, whether it comes to Senegal, Ethiopia, Egypt, Uganda, you name it. Everyone don't want the term limit. And that is the cause of conflict mostly in Africa. The United States welcomed the February 15 decision by Senegalese Constitutional Council to restore the presidential electoral calendar in accordance with Senegalese constitution. We note President Sall's announcement that he will fully implement the Constitutional Council decision and take the necessary steps to organize the election as quickly as possible. We urge all stakeholders to come together in the spirit of Senegal's strong democratic tradition to support a free and fair election conducted in a peaceful and a timely manner. The United States stands with the Senegalese people in their unwavering support for democracy. That is U.S. State Department. So the court rejected the delaying of the election. That's good one. That's a good sign. And when it comes to Ethiopia, what the court did, what those attorneys did, they figure out how they can extend the election by using different legal means. If you remember, during COVID, when the Tigrans decided to go election, the federal government wanted to delay the election and wage a war against the Tigrans for conducting election. But Senegalese court and decided you cannot delay election. So congratulations for Senegalese. I hope they will have peaceful election. That's all I have in writing, sharing news in reading. Let's continue with this Russian opposition. Navalny killed in jail. He was healthy, okay, on Thursday when we watch on video, but the next day he was found dead, and he was poisoned before that too. And this is putting very tough system of eliminating opposition parties. Let's listen to that and more videos to follow.
Russia's prison agency says that jailed opposition leader Alexei Navalny has died. He was 47. The Federal Prison Service said in a statement that Navalny felt unwell after a walk on Friday and lost consciousness. An ambulance arrived to resuscitate him but failed to do so. Navalny, who was Vladimir Putin's most high-profile domestic critic, was serving a 19-year sentence on charges of extremism. He was moved in December from his former prison in the Vladimir region of central Russia to a special regime penal colony, the highest security level of prisons in Russia above the Arctic Circle. The remote region is notorious for long and severe winters. All eyes are on the skies after Washington confirmed that Russia, seen launching a rocket earlier this month, is working on technology that the White House says could violate a treaty banning weapons of mass destruction in space.
I can confirm that it is related to an anti-satellite capability that Russia is developing. I want to be clear about a couple of things right off the bat. First, this is not an active capability that's been deployed. And though Russia's pursuit of this particular capability is troubling, there is no immediate threat to anyone's safety. We are not talking about a weapon that could be used to attack human beings or cause physical destruction here on Earth.
Congress met Thursday for a closed-door briefing on the matter.
We all came away with a very strong impression that the administration is taking this very seriously and that the administration has a plan in place.
Pentagon officials said the U.S. Space Force is poised to defend. Analysts say the U.S. military is clear-eyed about the dangers above our heads.
Whereas in the past, space was a secondary priority for all of the other military services. Now it is the top priority for someone in the Pentagon, and they really are starting to move forward on this.
Ignition.
Many of our earthly activities, from global positioning systems that govern mass transportation, to military systems, to weather satellites, are controlled from space. Harrison said other countries are aware of this too, and have been developing their own military technology.
We use space for so many different things in the military that an adversary can take space away from us and deny us the ability to use those space systems. They would negate one of our biggest advantages in the U.S. military. So that's why other nations, like Russia and China in particular, have been developing these anti-satellite capabilities for years now.
Kirby, who said Russia may be violating the Outer Space Treaty with this act, said Washington's first move is diplomatic.
We plan to engage directly with the Russians about this, and as well as allies and partners.
Arms control experts note that the 1967 treaty doesn't specify consequences. But they say a violation would alarm other major powers.
This would affect the global economy, the society writ large. So China would be deeply concerned. India would be extremely concerned. Countries that Russia has better relationships with than they do with us. So I think there would be a stinging rebuke. That might be enough to encourage Russia to back down.
So what now? Watch this space. Anita Powell, VOA News, Washington.
All engines at maximum thrust. We have liftoff.
So that is a new alarm.
10% off any single item at Harbor Freight now through Monday. No exclusive.
Get 10% off of it.
This is a new alarming situation. Russia may be angry. That's why they just come up with this threat, threatening our space station. We'll see. But Russia is a very tough, is squeezed from different angle by the United States and by European Union due to the war they are, Russians are waging in Ukraine. So they are angry. They are going around finding something to threaten the global community, and also, as you see, killing their own opposition party leaders, and jailing them for 19 years, poisoning them. This guy, can do anything to stay in power. Now his election coming up. If he win, he can stay until 20 something, 20 for lifetime maybe. He will be president. Who can challenge him? He control everything. So that's all I have for today. And I appreciate you for coming back to Concerned Citizens Media. Please share, subscribe, like my video, comment on it, and so we can, share those negativities again and again. Not that much positive news in this global community. And I will share a couple of videos with you about my visits to Jamaica and a little bit Haiti, enjoyment of the cruise. That's a new experience for me. Thank you again. Be safe. So long, everyone.